Okay, I'm going to start screen sharing and we'll go through a couple introductory slides. Thanks all for your patience again. We apologize for the delay. Let's go ahead and make sure if you are going to be presenting for your group, let us know in the chat function and we'll make sure you're a co-host. Summer, do you want to get the slides ready for us? If you could do full screen on that. Great. Well, sorry we're getting started a little late. We'll make up some time here real quick. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Alex Shore. I'm with Catalyze SV, and we're delighted to have you all here today. Want to tell you a little bit more about this event and why we're doing it. In a moment, we'll get to the actual presentation of the projects. Each presenter will give 10 minutes to talk all about their project. And we will be doing Q&A during those 10 minutes. So you won't have a ton of time on each project, but we've got a lot of great projects to go through. Summer, can you go to the next slide? So this is a little bit about Catalyze SV. And we do have live interpretation. So we have, for those of you who may have trouble hearing, we've got the live interpretation there at the bottom of the screen. You can check out and follow along with what folks are saying. So we care a lot about the community getting involved in the development process, and we've been working on this event for a very long time to try to put something like this together. And we're so grateful for the developers who are presenting today. The goal of today's event is just to get a sense of some of the great affordable housing that's been built in our community and some of the benefits that it brings to the residents who live there, as well as the larger community. So we want to show you some of those projects and get a sense for the value that affordable housing brings, again, both to the residents and to the larger community. Next slide. So we are recording this. We'll have it on Facebook Live right now. If you're watching on Facebook Live, welcome. Thanks for being here. It's also going to be up on YouTube in the coming days. We did this event in May as part of Affordable Housing Month that SV at Home puts on. There are a number of great events about affordable housing going on right now. We encourage you to check those out at that link you're seeing right there, bit.ly/SV Housing Month 2021. I don't know if we've got Nick Baldwin in here. Nick, do you want to wave real quick to the group and say hello?
All right, my camera's actually off, but I just wanted to say thanks for coming, everybody, and thanks for being a part of this event. I'm really excited to see all the different presentations tonight.
Yeah, Nick was one of the Catalyze SV volunteers who helped shape tonight's event and reach out to developers. Thank you so much, Nick. We keep telling folks time and again, and we'll say it again here tonight, our volunteers shape a lot of our events. So if you have an idea as a Catalyze SV volunteer that you want to see us put on an educational event or a social event like tonight, feel free to check in with our staff and help us shape more conversations about development in our community. We also want to thank our communications community engagement specialist, Summer Manga, for helping prep tonight's event. Thanks, Summer, for everything. She's going to talk us through a couple of the next slides.
Hello, everyone. First off, I'd like to thank the presenting sponsors for today's event. A huge thank you to Health Trust and Mary West Credit Union for donating and supporting this event. Next, I'd like to thank the supporting sponsors. A huge thank you to BART Transit Village Advocates, Somos Mayfair, and South Bay Yimby. And here's a slide showing all the developers I'll be presenting today at today's event. And also here's another list and a schedule showing when the developers will be going and the projects that they will be presenting.
So just a couple of ground rules. We've got a lot of folks on here, so if you wouldn't mind staying muted, we would appreciate it. If you want to come on camera, great. If not, that's okay too. Because time is so tight, we ask you to ask your questions in the chat function. If representatives of the affordable housing developers want to answer those questions in real time, feel free. If you want to share your contact information for follow-up questions afterwards, you're welcome to do that as well. And you can always follow up with these developers hereafter. All of these projects that we're presenting here tonight have either been approved by the government in which they're being built, or they are already actually under or finished construction. So we wanted to talk about projects that already are coming to be or already in our community. So there won't be any projects that you as the community will be shaping them going forward, but Catalyze SV scores and evaluates development projects all the time. So we'll probably be hearing about projects like these in the future. And we welcome your feedback if tonight's event goes well, or if you have any suggestions for it. We'd like to do it again in the future with more affordable housing developers and more projects to show you. So we're going to be focused on these specific projects tonight. And we ask you to please, if there's anything else you want to talk about, feel free to put it in the chat function or bring it up with us at a later time. Next slide. Okay, so we've got our first developer up ready to present. Let's introduce First Community Housing and their project. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, everyone at Catalyze SV for this wonderful event and the invitation to present. And for SV at Home, we appreciate you, and Affordable Housing Week Month is always exciting. So I advance the slides. I'm sorry, I'm new to this.
Either way, we can do it for you if you'd like. Or
oh, okay. Okay. So next slide. I just want to, I just want to talk a little bit about two projects that we're super excited to bring to the San Jose community. Both projects are in San Jose. Okay. Sorry, is someone talking to me?
We will make sure everyone's on mute.
So we're super excited about bringing these two projects to the San Jose community. Both projects are under construction. And so when we got the opportunity to showcase them, we could not wait. Both Lee Avenue Senior Apartments and Imac Village are almost 200 combined units of affordable housing coming to San Jose in 2021. Next slide, please. I just want to touch on First Community Housing. We are a nonprofit affordable housing developer based in San Jose. We have about, I'd say 80% of our developments are in San Jose. We have 22 properties throughout the South Bay, as far north as Redwood City, as far south as Capitola and Salinas. And we're a team of about 20 because we focus solely on development and asset management. And I am the director of housing development. So I'm over the development pipeline at First Community Housing. Next slide, please. So we have Lee Avenue Senior Apartments. What is really special about this development is that it's 64 units of affordable senior housing for seniors who have experienced chronic homelessness. So it's a property for seniors and for those who come through the county's permanent supportive housing referral program. And we're very excited. It's transit oriented. It's actually a mixed use project that has 6,700 square feet of commercial space. And we also, in addition to that commercial space, have extensive space for case management on site that's going to be provided by Abode Services. So that is the permanent supportive housing that we're providing, the model of having the support management, the case management on site so that the residents can have access to those services to improve their quality of life.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
This is Lillian. I live right across the street from those. I was trying to get into those, and I was told that those are only for chronically homeless, but you said that they are possibly mixed use. So my question was, it's frustrating when things go up, they look great, and you want to get into something, which I'm a senior and I have to be out of my rental by September, and then realize that you don't qualify exactly to the specifications. How can I get around that is what I'm trying to
Yes.
find out. Thank you.
Thank you, Lillian. Your question is actually right on point. So I'm going to explain a little bit more about what I said about the project being mixed use. It has two uses, residential uses and commercial uses, which will be offices, community-based nonprofits can rent spaces. We don't have a tenant identified for that 6,700 square feet, but those are the mix of uses, is the residential permanent supportive housing and the commercial. And then the permanent supportive housing, the county is absolutely correct. This project had been in our pipeline since 2007, 2008. For a very long time. And so when we started moving forward on this project, we had the opportunity through Measure A, because it was stalled from the Great Recession and then stalled again because of the elimination of redevelopment agencies. When Measure A came along in the county of Santa Clara, we took the opportunity to face the homeless crises head on with this project that had been waiting in essentially on our shelves, shovel ready for years. So that's one part of that makes this project so exciting for us at First Community Housing, is that we finally got this project that had been in the works for quite some time. And you can drive by it and you can see it, but you are correct in that every unit is a direct referral from the county through their chronically homeless assessment tool to house the chronically homeless. Next slide, please. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of the features that separate this project from others. And one of them is that we actually work with the Healthy Building Network to be in their well building pilot program to select materials that are healthy for the residents who will live here. We're in the process of leasing up the property, and that again is through the referrals of the county. We look to complete construction at the end of this month and start move-ins sometime in June. So at the moment, the project is almost complete. These are real photos that you see that highlight some of the green features, like all of those planter beds, all of the green space that you see on the decks, roofs, the solar panels. We worked very hard to incorporate sustainable features into this development. This development will be LEED Platinum, because that is the standard that First Community Housing builds to. And again, that's in addition to being in the well building pilot program. And we like to encourage our residents to learn more about sustainability through their own lives and activities. So that's why you see all of those beautiful planter beds for the residents to utilize. And on this slide, we just have a little bit of information about the funders involved in this project. Because it had been in our pipeline so long, it took a myriad of financing sources to push this project through. And I just want to highlight, the County of Santa Clara, the Housing Trust of Silicon Valley, Raymond James, our tax credit investor, and Citibank, our construction lender. But this was truly, and the City of San Jose, of course, was a partner in this project. So very exciting. And I think there was a question about, is it non-smoking? Yes, it is non-smoking, and that's a requirement of the LEED Platinum that we are looking to get in the building. Next slide, please. So this is Imac Village. This project is actually downtown, walking distance to the jobs downtown, walking distance to San Pedro Square. It's actually in the North San Pedro redevelopment area. And it's 135 units of housing for chronically homeless and veterans that have experienced homelessness, and individuals who might have an intellectual developmental disability. So it's actually a mix of population that we're serving with this development. It, of course, is transit oriented near the light rail station at St. James Park. And some of the features of this building will be an outdoor workout circuit, which we think will come in handy, especially given our experience with the pandemic and folks really looking to have access to workout facilities at home and outdoor. So we're hoping to really encourage that for our future residents. It was the affordable component of that whole downtown redevelopment area that's in the North San Pedro redevelopment area. So we are providing, all of these affordable units in an area that's being redeveloped as market rate. And it is scheduled for completion later in 2021, later in this year. So construction's underway. You can see this is one of the latest photos showing the status of the project as it goes up in our skyline. Next slide, please. This is another project that has been in the works for First Community Housing for quite some time, since about 2011. We've been involved in this project with the former redevelopment agency of the city of San Jose. So we've really pushed to get this project to the state it is now under construction. And we've partnered with a lot of different partners like the city, the county of Santa Clara. We've actually gotten 2 Hcd funding sources, the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities funding sources, which allowed us to partner with the city of San Jose's Department of Transportation and their Department of Parks and Recreation, and their Cultural Affairs Department. Actually, there's an art installation that was funded as a part of receiving those funds near right down the street in an underpass. So we've partnered with them to connect our residents to the St. James Light Rail Station to make sure that there is access to transit and that it's safe and well lit and pedestrian and bicycle friendly to get to that transit. And then we have a number of other Hcd sources like the Infill Infrastructure Grant Program and the Veterans Housing and Homelessness Program, which allows us to house 55 veterans that would be at risk of homelessness in this project. So again, just, this is one of those projects that's persevered through a lot of challenging times. And now we're breaking ground and very excited about that. This project will also be LEED Platinum. And it will also provide free VTA transit passes to all of the residents. And so will senior apartments project. So we do that for our whole portfolio in Santa Clara County. It's so important here because of the access to transit, and also on Lee Avenue, which is near the VTA light rail as well. So I think with that, I will wrap up my presentation.
Thanks, Regina. We've got 5 more minutes if anyone wants to ask any questions about First Community Housing's 2 projects. And I'll put in the chat function in a moment the presentation if anyone wants to look back at these projects as we get ready to vote later tonight. Any questions that folks have in the chat function, or if you want to jump on camera, and we've got 5 minutes for questions. Looks like we're getting some here.
Oh, yes. I saw a question about the unit mix. So in Lee Avenue, The unit mix is all 1 bedrooms because it was designed to serve low-income seniors and now serves seniors who have experienced homelessness. And at Imac Village, it's primarily studios, a much more urban design because of the location. There are about 16 1-bedrooms, I think, but it's primarily studios there.
Do you want to address the last question about enforcing?
Oh.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, the way we enforce no smoking in the units, which as we start to serve a population that has experienced homelessness and has formerly been unhoused, we do find that our residents tend to smoke a little bit more frequently, or it's more common. And so what we do is we actually designate on the property smoking areas. We try to find areas that are within the requirements of LEED to be, I think it's 25 feet from any major entrance on the property, so that there is a designated smoking area and that encourages people not to smoke in their units.
Great. Any other questions for Regina from First Community Housing on the 2 projects she presented to us?
And in terms of enforcement, I guess someone said that didn't answer the question. In terms of enforcement of no smoking, if someone's found to be smoking, typically our property management works with us and with the service provider to see if, how we can prevent them from not smoking. But I don't know how we prove that they're smoking. That's typically something our property management will work to prove. And they are the John Stewart company for both of these projects.
Regina, there's a question about square footage of 1-bedrooms and studios and bathroom grab bars.
Oh, that's a good question. I know the studios in Imac Village are about 400 square feet. The size of the 1-bedrooms, I don't know off the top of my head. In Imac, they're probably about 600, 650, but I don't know the square footage for Lee Avenue off the top of my head. And we make all of our units adaptable. So they're fully adaptable, but the number of units that have the grab bars already installed is in line with the ADA requirements, which I believe is 10% of the units, but they all are fully adaptable. So if there was a request to add grab bars, we could do that to any of the units because the backing is already there. And
okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Regina. Appreciate it. A couple of great projects to start off. And we are excited to have folks, again, we're going to do some voting at the end of the night. So keep these projects in mind. We put in the chat function, the presentation, if you want to look back at all of them as you do your voting a little bit later. In the meantime, let's go to our next affordable housing developer, the Kelsey. Allie, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. Good evening, everyone. My name is Allie Cannington, and I'm the manager of advocacy and organizing at the Kelsey, and I'm really excited to spend some time with you to tell you about our work specifically in San Jose at the Kelsey Air Station. So can you go to the next slide? Next slide. So the Kelsey, we are a Bay Area-based nonprofit that pioneers disability-forward housing solutions that open doors to more affordable homes and opportunities for everyone. And we are proud to be an organization that that is run by people with and without disabilities. And if you go to the next slide, we can really ground ourselves in where this work stems from, which is the fact that there are 61 million Americans with disabilities, myself being one of them, that in one way or another have immense barriers to housing. And people with disabilities, that can be a range of different types of disabilities, right? But across the board, there are 4 core issues that we've found. One is the cost. So people with disabilities are disproportionately living in poverty, in part, but not limited to the fact that many people have to live on SSI in order to receive the services that they need. And SSI, no one living on SSI can afford rent on SSI alone in any housing market. Also, there's extreme barriers in terms of access. Less than 6% of the housing market in the country, including here in California, is not accessible to people with disabilities. If you go back to the, yep, we're almost done. And then the 2 other barriers that we find is just discrimination. The fact that people with disabilities are the marginalized community that experiences the highest rate of discrimination. And of course, if you have multiple marginalized identities, whether you are a person with a disability who is also a person of color, who may be LGBTQ, and so on, these compound on one another. And all of this really leads to the fact that only 12% of adults with disabilities rent or own their own homes, and people with disabilities are 4 times more likely to experience homelessness. Next slide. And so what this has created, and we still see this happening in the market today, is that the current model of housing is still really segregated for people with disabilities. And that perpetuates all of the problems that I just spoke to. And this segregation can happen in institutional congregate settings, or you still can see it in multifamily housing as well. Next slide. And so at the Kelsey, we aim to address these barriers by creating inclusive housing that centers on the needs of people with disabilities, a diversity of disabilities. And we believe fundamentally that centering on disabled people's needs and perspectives and leadership leads to better housing for all people. Next slide. So our housing, including what I'm about to share with you about the Kelsey Air Station, anchors on housing that is more affordable to people of all income levels, including those at the deepest level of affordability, all the way up to market rents. We also believe that we practice housing that's more accessible to a diverse set of access needs and more inclusive, where people with and without disabilities can live in true community with access to the supports that they need to live their best lives like anyone. Next slide. So we're so proud to have our first ground up development in San Jose at 447 North First Street, the Kelsey Air Station. Next slide. So here is a rendering of the future building. And if you go to the next slide, the Kelsey Air Station will be 115 homes. 25% of those homes will be reserved for people with disabilities who use some sort of supportive service. Also, the building is universally designed. It's fully accessible to consider a diverse range of access needs. We'll go into that a little bit further later. We also have 30% of the units specifically for folks who are extremely low income. And then we have our inaugural Inclusion Concierge program that is a core element to cultivating an inclusive community that breaks down those barriers and creates one of belonging and affirmation and really towards more equity. Next slide. We were able to get this far and continue on this trajectory by some really exciting milestones, including an accelerated development timeline, SB 35 entitlement, as well as a deep community outreach process where people with and without disabilities have been together from the get-go in making this possible. We had our first investment from Google's Affordable Housing Fund, support from philanthropy, as well as public funding from the City of San Jose, the California Housing and Community Development Department, specifically for our transit-oriented development, and the county, as well as Cal HFA. Next slide. So on the ground floor, we have a robust set of community spaces that will be open to not just the residents, but the neighbors and community partners as a whole. Next slide. Above the ground level, we'll have 5 levels of our homes, the 115 homes. If you go to the next slide, here are some of the exciting amenities that have been driven from our amazing team and community input. And that is a combination of 2 bedrooms and studios. We have a dog run. We are literally 500 feet from VTA. Residents all get transit passes. We have an accessible drop-off, community lobby, ground floor patio, a sensory garden, a resident terrace, as well as really intentional spaces where people who are working to support our residents can meet with one another and with the residents, as well as resident lounges. Next slide. So going deeper real quick, connected community to us means that people with and without disabilities, we're not just throwing them in to live in the same building. We actually have a program design that and the physical design and how we are cultivating this space. We believe where it will be one where people with and without disabilities can share the space together, that diversity is valued, that interdependence is supported and celebrated, and that people with disabilities people with and without disabilities can have access to the same spaces and experiences. Next slide. And as Michaela said in the chat, the founder and CEO, she is available to answer questions. So am I. Almost done. How's my time?
You've got 2 minutes, Allie. You're
Cool.
doing it.
Almost there. So just a deeper dive in the diverse set of residents. So we'll have those 25% of homes that will be for people with disabilities who either use regional center services, and that's specifically for folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities, as well as people with disabilities who are actively transitioning out of congregate settings or skilled nursing facilities. And as we have seen in COVID-19, congregate settings are not safe places. And so we're really excited and honored to be able to have those folks in our community. Also, the income range is again from deeply affordable as well as up to middle income. Next slide. We have programming for inclusion. So if you haven't already attended one of our inclusion hours, we're not waiting until our building is built to cultivate community connections with businesses, local organizations, folks with and without disabilities. And so we're excited to have those events, whether that be a paint night, a political conversation, a happy hour on affordable housing. We're really excited for programs and some virtual ones coming up. Next slide. We also have our premier element of inclusion concierge. And so whether someone needs 2 hours of supportive services a day or 24 hours of supportive services a day, we are creating this housing that will be ready to support those individuals and the amazing workforce that is able to go in and out of folks' homes, and people who have their services can really honor their choice and their self-direction. Next one. Accessible design. It's not just about physical access as for just wheelchair users, for example. We go beyond that and think about all different types of access needs, whether someone is blind or low vision. We have wayfinding in the building, or a sensory garden for folks who may have other types of access needs who may need quieter spaces or really enjoy different types of sensory activities. And then the final slide. And so clearly, like, we are really dedicated to continuing to imagine what housing can be for all people with and without a diversity of disabilities and backgrounds and identities. And we're excited to have a home for more inclusion, access, and affordability in San Jose. Thanks so much for having me.
Allie, what an outstanding presentation. Thank you to you and the Kelsey for being here. It's so great to learn about this really essential type of housing that we need so much more of in our community. So we're grateful to the Kelsey. Good luck.
And please, I know I went over my time in terms of questions, but we'll be in the chat answering them, and I'll put my info in. Really would love to connect with all of you on the line and folks you may know who are interested.
That sounds perfect. Thank you, Allie. Thank you, Michaela. Amazing job. Okay, let's go to our next developer. We've got a couple folks who have partnered together here, Path Ventures and Affirmed Housing. They'll explain who they are, and another great project for you all to see and think about. Thanks, Path and Affirmed.
Thank you so much for having us. I think Rob is going to get us started here with the title slide.
Yes, if I could just figure out how to turn on my camera. Just bear with me here.
I can also get us started in the meantime. So we're presenting on Villas on the Park. Villas on the Park was one of the first 100% supportive housing developments for people experiencing homelessness in downtown San Jose. It's a partnered effort between Affirmed Housing, we're a co-developer, and Path Ventures. And of course, Path is also the service provider on site. How's your camera working, Rob?
Well, can you see me?
I can.
All right, great. And you can hear me?
Yeah, and I wanted to thank everyone again for having us this evening and welcoming us on this development. Go ahead, Rob.
I'm Rob Wilkins with Affirmed Housing, and I'm joined by Megan Colvert, who just introduced herself with Path, and presenting our Villas on the Park development, which opened its doors at the beginning of 2020 in earnest. Here's a shot of it and a few facts. Just that it's an 84 unit, 100% formerly homeless housing development, 24-hour security, and actually Affirmed has a office in there. That's where I work every day, along with a couple others. Here's a shot. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the architecture for a couple slides. But the architecture for Villas on the Park was developed with the input of a lot of key stakeholders and is intended to be warm and residential in character. We feel it is distinctively colorful and modern, yet a bit eclectic. Here's a shot of the 6th floor green patio deck. It's one of the unique features of this building. It includes a picnic table, a barbecue, community gardens, and a variety of landscaping, including citrus and fruit trees, plus raised planters for resident gardening. Villas received Greenpoint rated gold certification due to its embrace of several sustainable features, including Energy Star appliances, photovoltaic and hot water systems that offset a significant portion of the building's electrical and water heating requirements. Go to the next slide. Here's a shot of the streetscape out front of the development and the entry courtyard, which is a 2-story covered outdoor space with this decorative metal gate, as you can see, which is actually my favorite part of the development. Go to the next one. Here's a shot of the courtyard where residents gather. And with that, I think I'll hand it off to Megan.
Of course. So we'll get into services on site. We'll briefly go through this. We were very, very honored to have Tim Cook from Apple come and have interest in this development. He funded this entire community space and community computer lab. We'll talk about that more in the presentation. You can move to the next slide. This is also what's really unique about this development, which we'll also get into later, is it has a street outreach team that's addressing homelessness on the ground every day. So this is some of our office space on the ground floor. Next slide. And this design actually has been honored twice. We received the National Award for the National Association of Home Builders for the best affordable apartment community up to 100 units. We also received the Silicon Valley Business Journal's Structures Award for the best affordable rate residential project. Next slide. Community engagement. So this is a big one. When PATH first arrived to San Jose in 2015, Villas on the Park was the first of its kind. The Silicon Valley and San Jose had never constructed an 100% supportive housing development for people experiencing homelessness. So you can imagine that the fear around what this would mean was quite extensive. We were very committed to pioneering bold and effective solutions to homelessness, increasing the availability of affordable housing stock in the Silicon Valley, but also educating our neighbors on the cost effectiveness of getting people off the streets and into supportive housing, not to mention the benefit of providing inclusive and affordable housing for all. Next slide. As you can imagine, housing of our most vulnerable proved to be very difficult. Many of you were probably around in 2015 as we launched this effort. Hundreds of people showed up to demonstrate opposition to this project. Right away, we launched a homeless street outreach team in 2015 to immediately respond to our neighbors' homeless concerns and to also better understand the unique needs of the population we wish to serve. So that's a really unique feature of this development. It's not just about providing permanent homes, but it's about providing ongoing services before we open our doors and far after to address some of the concerns that neighbors have in the community. We held over 150 individual meetings, coffee meetings, lunch meetings with local neighbors, business leaders, community organizations. As you can imagine, this was quite a big endeavor, but it was also just because the community had never seen supportive housing taking our most vulnerable people off the streets and in to a supportive place of their own. We had 3 large community meetings. And astoundingly, when Villas on the Park finally reached council a few years later for approval, not a single individual appeared to voice opposition to the project. So we were very much committed to the relationships that we held in getting this off the ground. Next slide. Next slide. When we talk about promoting alternative forms of transportation, this is a big one. We provide transit passes for all residents. We have an on-site bike share program. PATH also has a statewide partnership with Lyft to provide residents with free transportation to critical appointments. If somebody has a medical procedure or a change in medications, we can use this resource. We also have 4 on-site vehicles to provide transportation to the grocery store, social security offices. And then we also have a full-time activities coordinator. His full-time job is just to promote social integration, get people out in the community. So we're going to feature some photos of the work there. Next slide. So this is an example of our bike share program and residents accessing that. Next slide. This is a feature of our activities, right? So we do walking tours, getting the residents out, going to Starbucks for coffee, going to local coffee shops. We have walking tours to the local farmers market to address food scarcity, but also help people build community and friendship with one another and get out and on the street. So that's definitely another form of transportation. We can keep going. You'll see some art galleries and stuff here, also group tours to get people used to public transportation. Next slide. Health and wellness is a huge one. Villas on the Park actually has a full-time staff that actually bill Medi-Cal for our services. We also have medical service on site. We have a bi-weekly healthcare services in partnership with our county partners, a trained team of clinicians to provide regular mental health services to our residents. And during the pandemic, we actually organized an on-site vaccination program for our residents. Food and nutrition is also key. So residents at villas have access to the community garden where we're growing our own food, again, addressing food scarcity. And our clients also during the pandemic were receiving regular deliveries to their door during shelter in place of fresh produce, meat, non-perishable, etc. Wellness group activities is also huge. So our activities coordinator is fully on board to plan activities that increase wellness. So coping skills classes, art therapy, and then we have partners like Recovery Cafe to come on site to do recovery group. Next slide. Physical wellness as well. We talked about kind of the active kind of physical lifestyle. And I also just wanted to highlight again, activities on site to reduce social isolation. So during the pandemic, we got iPads from Apple that we were able to give to residents. We did virtual tours of museums in Paris and Rome and across the world so residents could partake in feeling connected. Bingo, arts and crafts workshops, and all kinds of fun games with raffle prizes as well. Next slide. On-site services, we talked about the unique feature of this building. It's affordable housing with a full on-site street outreach team. Very, very unique from any other development. So this on-site street outreach team, when we get a call from neighbors about homeless concerns in the park, downtown, all throughout downtown, we dispatch this team. Their full-time job is not providing services on site. We have a team that does that. This team just goes out in the streets, under freeway underpasses, in encampments, addressing the immediate needs of not the people we've housed in the building, but the needs of the neighborhood. And this is a really dynamic element of villas. Continuity of care is also crucial because this outreach team, again, started 3 years before we opened, actually 4 years before we opened. So we knew people that were moving into the building. And if residents find that they want to move out of the building, I should note we have a 99% retention rate. We're housing the most vulnerable folks in our county that have been homeless for 10, 20, 30 years, 99% retention. Yet some people, like a family, a mother with her children, gained custody because she was housed of her children, so she wanted to move on outside of a studio. And these long-term relationships really help us ensure continuity of care. Next slide. I think we're closing it out. We talked about the computer lab. This is also on the left side, our community room. We do cooking activities, cooking classes. This is where a lot of our workshops take place. We have 24/7 on-site security, and we also host neighborhood events to build community. Just recently, it was actually astounding, one of our primary opponents of the development in 2015 joined our neighbors and our residents to clean up the neighborhood. So now we're integrating community, reducing this concept of otherness, this idea that supportive housing is a detriment to neighborhoods. Finally, we have those that most opposed us actually joining our residents, going out in the neighborhood, integrating, becoming one with each other, and also cleaning up the neighborhood. I think this is the end. Is there another slide?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, and we're obviously, sorry, I was trying to rush through it. We're obviously available for questions and we can address those in the chat as well.
That sounds great. Thank you, Megan.
Of
What
course.
a fantastic partnership between Affirmed and Path, and yet another really impressive project. Thank you for sharing it with us. And yes, if you guys have questions, anyone in the Zoom room, feel free to put those in the Zoom chat function. We're going to go to our next presenter right now, Summer, or whoever is presenting, if that's EAH. We are excited to hear your projects too. Thank you for being here.
Oh, we're excited. Let me see if we have hosting duties. If we don't, I'll just go through the same slide regime that you've done so far.
You do. You can direct it yourself, or you can ask us to.
Okay. Give me a second. Can you see the screen?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, now we can't.
Now you can't. Okay. How about now?
Coming up.
All right. Let me know if we don't, and we'll just bounce back to the normal.
Thanks, Dave.
Are you there?
Yep. Take it away.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thank you for inviting us in. EAH is very pleased to be a part of this affordable housing event. I'm Dave Egan, Vice President of Real Estate Development at EAH, and I'm also joined by my colleague, Kristen Taylor, who is our Director of Resident Services. EAH is a 53-year-old nonprofit organization founded in 1968 with a mission of expanding the range of opportunities for families by developing, managing, and promoting quality and well-designed affordable housing, combined with effective resident services to help improve the socioeconomic growth potential of our diverse communities. Today, EAH serves 25,000 residents in 222 affordable housing communities across California and Hawaii. There are, and here in Santa Clara County specifically, we have built 16 affordable housing communities to date and managed 19 properties. We achieve these results by personalizing designs to individual locations and working with our county and local partners. Now we'd like to give you a brief overview of two of our projects within Santa Clara County. The first is Orchard Ranch, located in Morgan Hill, and the second is Parkview Family Apartments, located in San Jose. First up is Morgan Hill, Orchard Ranch. Our new community is comprised of 3 individual sites and was completed in 2018. The city of Morgan Hill came to us with an idea. They wanted to improve the city's front entry leading into their downtown area by taking 3 small underutilized infill sites and building attractive, affordable homes on them. After EAH committed to the 3 locations, the city provided significant financing and we began a collaborative design phase with senior city officials. From that effort, we arrived at individual property designs that fit the unique characteristics of each site. The collaboration also included setting aside 6 units for transitional aged youth and the addition of 2 commercial spaces requested by the city. Together, the 3 sites, Tobiano, Overo, Palomino, became the single scattered site community that we call Orchard Ranch. The reason it is referred to as a scattered site is because the sites are not contiguous and were built using a single funding package. These 2-story garden style apartments with 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments provide housing for low income families at or below 60% of the area median income for Santa Clara County. Tobiano is on a half-acre site containing 14 units plus a commercial space and is along East Dunn, which is one of the 3 main arterials leading from Highway 101 to Monterey in the downtown. Overo is less than 1/3 of an acre, contains 8 units over a podium garage. And Palomino is less than an acre site and contains 19 units with interior community spaces, leasing office, and again, a separate commercial space. The apartment features included air conditioning, Energy Star appliance, among other features listed on the screen right now. Community amenities included community kitchen, fitness room, community laundry, and outside common spaces for the residents. Sustainability features are also an important thing for EAH. As a core initiative, we work diligently to ensure Orchard Ranch featured energy efficient appliances, incorporated solar photovoltaic panels, drought tolerant landscaping, and individual submetering of water utility hookups, which is especially important to drought exposed Morgan Hill. Orchard Ranch is also conveniently located near public transportation as well as shopping centers, restaurants, the City of Morgan Hills Community and Cultural Center, as well as the Morgan Hill Caltrain Station. Now I'd like to turn it over to Kristen Taylor, our Resident Services Director, to provide you a little information about the resident services that we provide at Orchard Ranch.
Hi, y'all. This is Kristen. Nice to see everyone here tonight. And quick little trivia question before we move forward. Tobiano, Avero, and Palomino are some interesting names. So if anybody knows what type of animal that is, throw that in the chat and let's see if you can guess. So again, our resident services team at EAH Housing is dedicated to empowering our communities and enhancing the quality of life. And we truly believe that a roof is just the beginning. We help connect residents with health and wellness activities, such as food banks and healthy cooking classes, digital literacy and after school programs, financial assistance, and other services. EAH Housing offers services, activities, and events directly within the community to help reduce barriers to access and engagement, such as lack of transportation or program fees, as we are sure to make sure there's no cost to any of the services that we provide. And we design activities that are based on input from the youth, adults, and seniors we serve. Prior to COVID, just like many of you, many of our events and services occurred in larger groups. And like many of my fellow service partners on this event tonight, we did need to adjust our service delivery model to continue essential services safely and respond to new needs brought on by the pandemic. And yes, they are horses. So there you go, Lauren and awesome Jackson. Our philosophy and approach to resident services is both community-oriented and person-centered. We work with trusted service partners local to the community to expand what we're able to offer. At Orchard Ranch, residents have had visits from the local bookmobile in partnership with the library, family portraits created by the Family Album Project, ongoing food access services through the Second Harvest Food Bank in the school district, and virtual painting classes with the Morgan Hill Art School. Summertime will bring field trips for our youth in partnership with the City of Morgan Hill Recreation Department to the local aquatic center, as well as a number of community building events coordinated by our internal EAH Housing resident services staff, including distributing family fun boxes that include all of the supplies a family needs for a fun movie night, cookie decorating, and even scavenger hunts of downtown. As Dave mentioned earlier, Orchard Ranch is home to 6 units designed for transitional age youth between the ages of 18 and 25, who typically have aged out of foster care and they receive supportive services through the county. They also receive case management through Community Solutions and partner with our resident services staff to work on reaching their goals for independence and also receiving some support for securing their educational and employment dreams. Finally, I'd just like to share one story with us that's also on some of our resident story pages about one of our residents named Genevieve, a single mother living with her family at Orchard Ranch. This is her first home where she lives alone with her children. Prior to that, Genevieve lived in a house with several people and often had to choose between paying rent or putting food on the table. Now at Orchard Ranch, she can pay a rent that she affords and she lives near her work rather than having to commute long hours, and she can spend much more time with her family and within her community. So that's a little bit about Orchard Ranch. I'm going to turn it back over to Dave to showcase Parkview Family Apartments down in San Jose.
Thanks, Kristen. And now we'll take a look at Parkview Family Apartments in San Jose. Parkview Family Apartments is a beautifully built 90-unit apartment community featuring 1, 2, and 3-bedroom apartments, offering residents private outdoor balconies, along with the digital literacy center and a children's playground. Just as an aside, Parkview Family's sister property, Parkview Senior Apartments, was built and renovated at the same time, and it contains 40 one-bedroom apartments, and it's right next door. The property was built in 1997. And then fully renovated in 2015, thus preserving the affordability of for households with incomes at or below 60% of the area median income for the county. Another core goal of EAH is to not only build and manage, but also to be good stewards of our properties over the long term. So beyond regular maintenance, EAH recapitalizes its properties and invests in modernizing building systems, apartments, appliances, landscaping, and exterior appearances every 15 to 20 years. Parkview Family is a prime example of our commitment to the long term, and Parkview Family remains one of the most beloved affordable housing communities in the South Bay region. The 2015 rehabilitation project included modernizing many of the features and amenities, as well as incorporating sustainability features that you'll see on the slide right now. And it included photovoltaic systems being installed, as well as new energy efficient lighting and drought tolerant landscaping. Like Orchard Ranch, Parkview Family is close to public transportation, nearby shopping, including grocery stores, banks, pharmacies, and restaurants to serve our residents. Now I'm going to pass it off back to Kristen to talk about some of the services provided at that property.
Thanks again, Dave. And I don't have a trivia question for Parkview Family, unfortunately. So like I mentioned earlier, our resident services team customizes programs and activities for each community that's really based on resident input, best practices for addressing wellness and inclusive environments, and the foundation of housing stability. So at Parkview Family, we focus more on supporting economic mobility, where we've had many families actually move out into home ownership, education, overall health and wellness, community building, and civic engagement. Since there are many residents who have called Parkview Family home for many years, we have numerous youth who've applied for scholarships with our services staff, and they continue to work together to navigate college and employment. Summer's right around the corner, and it will bring lots of different recreational opportunities to the teens at Parkview Family who participate in our Summer Connections program and engage in team building activities outside before jumping on the computers in our tech lounge. Prior to COVID, we were able to take field trips to see Cirque du Soleil at the fairgrounds, as well as other small walking trips, and of course, see our favorite, the San Jose Giants, play at the ball field. We also love teaming up with our sister property, Parkview Senior, to participate in intergenerational celebrations and multicultural events and activities. So there are lots of stories I could tell you about our community at Parkview Family, but I wanted to speak a little bit about how we're empowering our residents by trying to close the gap of the digital divide. As we've certainly found out during COVID, access to computer and technology devices, high-speed internet, and digital literacy have become really critical throughout all of our lives. Parkview Family is equipped with a large tech lounge. There's free Wi-Fi throughout the property and a variety of digital literacy programming. Throughout COVID, our staff provided access to financial assistance resources, one-on-one wellness check-ins, and personal navigation through some really incredibly challenging systems like unemployment or CalFresh. Our technology center continues to be upgraded so that our youth can keep up with their academics and participate in our STEM classes on site. And for our older adults, they receive lots of education on how to stay connected with friends and family, access telehealth services, and interact with their neighbors virtually. So that's a short overview of our Parkview Family apartments. We really thank you for your time today. We'll be sure to leave our email addresses in the chat. Grateful to be able to share some information with you on Housing, give you a glimpse into our work, and happy to answer any questions moving forward.
Okay, are there any questions in the chat function, Kristen or Dave, that you want to pick up real quick in the last minute? If you want extra time, let us know.
Okay.
I know we cut into yours a little bit.
No, that's all right. I don't.
There's a question about balconies or private open space.
Yeah, the balconies are private open space, but they're also community open spaces between the buildings and interior community spaces. But if there are more specific questions, please put them in the chat again, and we can try and answer them more fully.
Okay, great. Anything else from our EAH team? Well, it looks like we're getting a question from Liz G. Typical unit size for 1 or 2 bedrooms. Is that something you all could answer real quick?
Sure. The typical 1-bedroom sizes are between 515 and 650 square feet. 2 bedrooms are anywhere from 700 to 850. and 3 bedrooms are anywhere from 950 to 1150 square feet.
Okay. Well, if the EH team wouldn't mind answering some of the additional questions that have or maybe will come through in the chat function, that would be great.
We'd be
We have
happy to.
a few folks there. Really appreciate, Dave, you being here. Kristen, we haven't seen each other in a while. Good to cross paths again. Thank you for coming, and thank you for presenting 2 cool, neat projects. Hopefully more to come from EH after all these years you've been building housing. So congrats on your success. Thanks so much. Okay, let's go on to the next presentation. We are excited to keep things going. We are still pretty much on time. We've got resources for community development up next. RCD, thanks for being here.
Hi, thanks for including us. I'm just gonna share my screen for a minute here. And let me get this started. Great. Well, thanks for having me. It's great to be a part of this and just see all these very cool developments and all the stuff that's going on tonight. And also there's just a lot of really great panels and presentations happening this whole month for affordable housing. So I'm just happy to be a part of all this. My name is Carolyn Bookhart, and I'm the Director of Real Estate Development for Resources for Community Development, which is also known as RCD, commonly known as RCD. And tonight I'm going to talk about our Ketzel Gardens development in San Jose, which is a new construction development. It integrates permanent supportive housing and affordable family housing within a broader community. It's just about to come online. We're about 80% complete in construction. So we'll be opening up around August this summer. Like I said, it's in the east side of San Jose. A little background, just real quick on RCD and who we are. RCD is a nonprofit developer, owner, operator of affordable housing. We work pretty much through most of the Bay Area, and we really serve the whole spectrum of housing needs, from large families to chronically homeless, to seniors, to special needs. And in addition to our development arm, we have about 60 buildings we've built. We have maybe 15 in our pipeline. But in addition to our development side, we also have a resident services department, an asset management department. We also have a community development arm. And our whole portfolio is actually managed through a long-term partnership with the John Stewart Company. We've been partnering with them for about 20 years right now. So we have a really good relationship with them. Just for some context, where Ketzel Gardens is, as I mentioned, it's the east side of San Jose. It's at the corner of King Road and Alum Rock. It's a great transit-oriented location. It's right on the bus rapid transit line that was just recently constructed with runs going into downtown. There's a stop right in front of the project site. And then catty corner to the site is the Mexican Heritage Plaza and the School of Arts and Culture. So there's a number of things that we're really proud of about Ketzel Gardens. Kind of initially there's some, first, it was one of the early recipients of the Measure A funding through the Santa Clara County Office of Supportive Housing. It was one of the first developments to be approved in an urban village in San Jose. And it was actually one of RCD's first developments to move forward in Santa Clara County too. So we're, especially excited about that. But in addition to that, there's some, larger accomplishments that we're really proud of that we want to share tonight that we're proud of and can really provide some lessons learned for future work that we do and other folks in the industry. And those key areas are really on where I'm going to focus tonight is kind of the community engagement work that we implemented here. And then through that, how that kind of fed into creating a really meaningful design and approach that really respected kind of the local history and the culture of the neighborhood. And that ultimately will create a larger community development impact in the overall neighborhood beyond just the housing that we are creating here. So starting with the community engagement, we actually started out really early in the concept phase, and we reached out and connected with some key stakeholders and leaders in the community. You can see some of the key ones listed here. And we kind of formed a steering committee, and we met with them a number of times, and also with the larger community, to first, obviously answer questions about, how property will be managed, what services will be provided. There was questions about whether undocumented folks would be able to live here and how the lease up process would work. And then also just about how the design and scale of this type of building would fit into the context of the neighborhood. We also worked together a lot to really look at the ground floor space. There's actually a pretty substantial amount of commercial space in this building. It's about 8,000 square feet. And so instead of just kind of creating a space for some retail, occupant that we may find in the future, we actually really worked together with this steering committee to try to figure out what opportunities might be here to generate a broader investment in the neighborhood and really create space for local organizations that are also struggling to stay and thrive in this neighborhood, given all the displacement pressure, that's going on, not just on the residential side, but really for community-based organizations that are working here in this community. So overall, we had about 15 community meetings and met with lots of folks in the neighborhood and really created a nice model for how to successfully incorporate community voices into the design and program development of our projects. And even now, there are a lot of streamlining, processes, SB 35 and AB 2162 that really help the entitlements process. But we actually continue to kind of follow this model so that we can really incorporate the community into creating a good design and a good program for the neighborhood where we're working. So I think it's kind of a nice model, and really not just for community engagement, but like I said, just kind of looking at how to kind of look at this development more holistically to create a community development impact beyond the housing. And then one pretty cool thing that came out of this process is that the members of the original kind of steering committee of stakeholders and leaders have actually spun off and created their own sustaining group of active and engaged community leaders. And they formed a group called the Alum Rock Urban Village Associates, or Aruba, that's now really taking an active role in shaping other developments in the area. And that really spun off of the kind of steering committee that was created as part of the community outreach for this development. So I think that's kind of a neat component. So on the design side, as part of this process, in addition to answering questions that the community had, we also worked together so we could better understand and really honor through design the cultural heritage and significance of this community, which is really quite rich. So this is the home of the renowned labor leader, Cesar Chavez. It was the birthplace of the Mexican-American Civil Rights Movement. So we really wanted to make sure that our development was going to honor and respect that context and not just kind of plop a building in this neighborhood that's full of rich history. So as the design began to take shape, in addition to looking at things like parking and access and traffic circulation, we also just kind of looked at the history of the site and around the site and its juxtaposition to the School of Arts and Cultures and the Mexican Heritage Plaza. And we came together on a design approach and a project name inspired by the Ketzel, which is a brightly colored bird, an endangered bird that's found throughout Mexico and Central America. So that's how the name Ketzel Gardens came about. And then the design kind of evolved from that to create, really like a modern reflection of Mexican and Mediterranean architecture, and also to reflect the Ketzel bird. So there's a number of design details that include kind of feather motifs in the railing and the metalwork. There's some feather herringbone-like patterns on the corner of the tower. And also just the color palette that's reflective of the colors of the Ketzel bird. Let's see, next. We also worked together, there's kind of a plaza area outside of the ground floor commercial space. So we worked together there to kind of create a public plaza that can really facilitate more pedestrian activity. This is a small business corridor. So we spent a lot of time kind of thinking about enlivening that space. And then we also work together to kind of, again, like I said, to kind of figure out how to fill that ground floor space that's really going to be impactful for the community. And so we are now going to be creating a new and expanded home for Somos Mayfair, which is a really important and active community-based organization in this community. Also the Latino Business Association and Excite Credit Union will all be housed on the ground floor of this building. And then finally, just some information on the overall housing program. This really reflects an integrated housing model that we at RCD do a fair amount. We found it to be a really sustainable approach to kind of integrating permanent supportive housing into a broader community. It's also creating a pretty substantial amount of family housing because there's a real significant need for low-income families in this area. So we really bulked up the 2 and 3 bedroom units. And at the bottom of the slide, this is actually a mural that's mounted on our construction fence right now. And it was painted by a local artist and was facilitated by this women-led nonprofit group called Local Color that supports local artists to stay engaged and active and employed in the community. And we're continuing to work with local artists now to create some permanent murals that'll be on sections of the facade when we're completed. So that wraps up our presentation, and thanks for including us and letting us share our project with you all. Happy to answer any questions you might have too. I'll stop sharing.
Thanks, Carolyn. Appreciate it. Any questions anyone saw on the RCD team and the chat function that you want to address really quick? I don't think I saw any.
Not seeing any. I think we're good.
Okay. Well, keep them coming in the chat function, everyone. Thank you so much. Let's move on to Danco. They've got a couple projects for us. We got 2 projects. These will be our last 2 projects of the night. So Carolyn, thank you so much for showing RCD. I enjoyed that bird in particular. That was fun to learn that story. So thanks. Danko, thank you for being here. And yeah, you've got 10 minutes per project. Take as much as you need of that time.
Thanks, Alex. And yeah, I'll just ask you guys to move the slides for me, if that's okay.
Yeah.
All
Someone
right.
can help with that. Thanks, Summer.
All right, let's move it on. So I'm Mackenzie. I'm a project manager here at Danco Communities, and it's really exciting to be included as a part of the Showcase on Awesome Projects. It has been really inspiring and energizing to hear about all the wonderful highlights and all the creativity that's gone into the design and the amenity creation for all of these projects. So I've really appreciated listening in. Yeah, I'm just going to present a little bit on our company and 2 of our current projects in Santa Clara County. You can go to the next slide. So the Danko Group is a group of companies dedicated to building up the communities we serve, and we're committed to the success of our customers and residents. Danco was founded 34 years ago, and we've been developing affordable housing for the past 20 years. We've been pioneers in the energy efficiency and affordable housing. Our projects, one of our projects in Arcata was the first zero net energy apartment complex in North America, and we've received LEED Platinum on 3 projects. We're a vertically integrated company offering development, construction, and property management services. And because we're the owner, builder, developer, and property manager on all of our projects, we feel really invested in the communities we serve and our desire to ensure each project's long-term success. Our developer, Danco Communities, offers affordable housing, market rate housing, senior assisted living, and commercial. We offer construction through our companies Danco Builders and Danco Builders Northwest. Our main focus is commercial and residential construction. And we also offer property management services, and we're currently managing 800 affordable units. We manage workforce, large families, senior, and permanent supportive housing projects. Next slide. So as I mentioned, we've got a wide range of project types. We've got family, senior, workforce, and special needs. We've developed all over California and other parts of the West. And we've developed 28 affordable properties to date, which have 1,300 affordable units. We've got another 20 or so projects in the pipeline and expect that we'll have developed around 2,600 total affordable units within the next 5 years. We have developed 7 permanent supportive housing projects. We've done 1 project that's been constructed in Santa Clara County, and we've got 2 others entitled in Santa Clara County. Next slide. So this is the first project that I'm going to talk about. It is the one that we've just completed construction on. It's called Monterey Gateway, and it's in Gilroy, California. This was our first project in Santa Clara County. We completed construction last year around this time, so it's been in service for about a year. And the project is 100% affordable. It's got 75 units, 74 of which are affordable, and 1 is a manager's unit. It's got 1 and 2 bedrooms. It's for seniors and seniors with special needs, so formerly homeless. Half the units are reserved for formerly homeless seniors. We've got on-site supportive services for all tenants, including resident services coordination from a company called Life Steps, and we've got case management on the property from the Office of Supportive Housing from Santa Clara. We also have full-time security services at this property. Well, actually, it's not full-time, it's about 16 hours a day, so a couple of hours missing on the weekends, but pretty tight security. Next slide. So the amenities in this project include a swimming pool, raised garden beds, a community room and community kitchen for gathering, a computer lab, offices and therapy rooms for the on-site services providers. We have a fenced and landscaped yard. The project was Greenpoint rated, and it targeted categories in community, energy, indoor air health quality, resources, and water. We've got a 50% energy offset on this project. It's also got an outdoor pergola with 2 barbecues, picnic tables, an outdoor dog park, 3rd floor outdoor patio, and secured parcel room. The project was funded by a conventional loan from Pacific Western Bank, 4% tax credits with our investor Raymond James, tax exempt bonds with the California Municipal Finance Authority, and it was also funded County of Santa Clara Measure A funds. Next slide. So this is our newest development. This doesn't really have a name yet, but we're calling it 777 West San Carlos Residential. The project is 154 units. It's 100% affordable, with 1/3 for extremely low income, 1/3 for low income, and 1/3 for very low income. And so it includes 54 units of chronically homeless housing units. The project will have 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, as well as studios. The entitlements are processed through SB 35. And so the project was designed to meet the vision and urban design goals of the Diridon Station Plan and the San Jose Downtown Plan guidelines, specifically supporting transit ridership and economic development, improving pedestrian, bicycle, and motor transit. The project promotes walkable, livable, and business supportive environments within the Diridon Station area. It creates a highly active and lively pedestrian and bicycle friendly environment with really good connectivity to downtown destinations and local transit. It enhances the neighborhood and adds high density residential and commercial mixed use. So it's going to be kind of like a catalyst for other projects in the area. It utilizes building design and technology that minimizes energy consumption. And in addition, it provides active ground floor street frontage with nice glazing on the windows down below. And it's got a limited parking footprint, so all the parking is going to be hidden inside the building in a garage. In regards to the architecture, it reinforces the identity of the West San Carlos neighborhood and the Diridon Station area. incorporating the character and history in the neighborhood's industrial past and looking forward to the district's urban future transportation and just being a tech hub of Silicon Valley. The facades incorporate a mix of low maintenance exterior finishes, including exterior plaster and panelized wall systems, large awnings, and ground floor vertical wood siding to give some warmth and human scale. Next slide. So this kind of just depicts our project site in regards to access to transit and future developments in this area of San Jose. So we've got 777 right there, which is the project I'm talking about. And then our other downtown San Jose project is 750, which is just right across the street there. So in regards to transportation, there's easy access to the extensive Los Gatos Creek bicycle trail system. It's within a quarter mile or a 5-minute walk to the future Google Downtown San Jose campus, which will be a mixed use urban transit village with up to 13 million square feet of new commercial and tech space. It's going to be within a quarter mile or a 5-minute walk to the VTA and rapid bus transit. And it's within a half mile or a 10-minute walk to the Diridon station with multiple transit options there, including Caltrain, Amtrak, and Capital Corridor. And then in the future, the Diridon station is planned to have a BART stop and a high-speed rail connection to San Francisco and Los Angeles. Next slide. So this is a depiction of the courtyard area on the second floor. The housing and unit design provides high quality, affordable residential units with services and amenities for singles, couples, and families with children. The unit designs feature open floor concepts with open kitchen, dining, and living spaces. It provides a variety of generous storage spaces, extra large windows to provide natural light, and then we'll also have balconies on each residential unit for the connection to some outdoor space. The common amenities will include on-site childcare service. So this was something that we really felt the call to provide the community, and we kept hearing about the need for more childcare in this area from different organizations that we talked to throughout our outreach process. And so we're going to be offering childcare at a discounted rate to the tenants as a service, and then to the community after that. We're contemplating putting a splash pad and a play area on the podium courtyard. There's going to be landscape picnic area and barbecue area. There will be on-site offices and facilities for counseling, secure bike parking, and bike repair facility. There's also going to be an outdoor dog run, dog wash, and potentially makers stations for hobbyists and creatives. And then just a little bit about the sustainability. There will be high efficiency hot water heaters, high efficiency HVAC systems, including PTAC units. There will be a large photovoltaic roof array, all LED lighting, and high efficiency all electric appliances. There's going to be a low parking ratio per unit, so 0.5 spaces per unit. And it's close to job centers and transportation, as I mentioned earlier. As far as water usage goes, there will be low flow fixtures, stormwater treatment planters integrated into the design, and use of drought tolerant native landscaping. We'll use green construction materials, and the indoor air quality will be really good with MERV 13 filters, operable windows, and low VOC paints and materials. This project has received funding through Santa Clara's Measure A, and that's about as far as we've gotten. We're putting together the rest of the project now, and really appreciate being able to present. Thank you all so much for listening.
Thanks, Mackenzie. There was a question about parking standards. Did you want to take that at all?
let me find it.
Just the question was just, what are the parking standards for the project?
Well, there's going to be a half a space per unit, and we don't have any requirement for parking. So,
can you talk a little bit, Mackenzie, about the sort of demand for affordable housing, parking in affordable housing projects being a little lower? Do you have any insights on that?
yeah, I mean, I think it really just depends on where the project is. If you're in a rural area with very little transit, there's a lot more need for parking spaces, but especially in an area as connected to job centers and transit as this one is, it's the ideal place for reducing parking spaces. And the idea is also to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and yeah, create a more green style transit oriented development.
Great, thanks, Mackenzie. We got about 4 more minutes. If there's anything else on your 2 projects you want to share, please let us know. We would love to hear. Otherwise, we're going to come to the little bit of wrap-up information, including the voting process. And guess what? We might be able to give folks a few more minutes back of their night if they want. Anything else, Mackenzie, you want to say on Danco's 2 projects?
I was reading the comments. I appreciate the velodrome. I'll definitely write that down and give it to our marketing team.
Okay. Well, thank you all. I mean, 9 excellent projects. We're so glad to hear about them. So why do we do this voting part? What's the purpose of this? Well, we want the developers who are, in general, my experience is that affordable housing developers are very responsive to community input, and we want them to be able to have some additional input, not just on one project that they're building in the moment, but on a whole host of projects. What did the community really like? And so we want to give you the opportunity to share your thoughts on these projects back with the developers who presented here tonight, as well as the larger development community on affordable housing, so they can get a sense of what really resonates with you as a community member. So, of course, you don't have exactly equal information on all the projects, we know that, and you may want to take a moment to re-review the video, which we'll send you out via YouTube in the next 24 hours, and you're welcome to do that. And then you can just vote on which project you like best. And granted, the categories that we came up with some input from other organizations and some of our members. Just do your best, whatever you think is placemaking to you, meaning what creates the most vibrant project for an entire neighborhood. Feel free to use that as your definition. Most environmentally sustainable, it might be a LEED certification or a green rated certification. So anything you heard about that. Most inclusive, again, that can mean different things to different folks, but bring the most number of different types of people into a neighborhood or development. Which project did you hear of tonight that did a really good job of encouraging folks to get around using alternative forms of transportation like walking, biking, or public transit? Which project did you think did the best job of their community engagement leading into the approval? And we had some projects talk in depth about that tonight. Part of solving a housing crisis that's so big and tough in our community is building the most number of affordable homes. So which project did you think used the best use of height to build as many homes as it possibly could? Was there one project that you thought was the best in terms of providing the most deeply affordable homes to prevent displacement from a community? And so be thinking about that with that category. Best in health and wellness. We heard some projects talk about that tonight. Which project do you think really is going to help the long-term health and wellness of the residents and the neighborhood? And then what project did you think is providing the best services on site through themselves or through other providers overall? And so coming back to the first 2, what is the best overall project? The one you just like the best, that might be the easiest category for folks to vote on tonight. And then what's the best design? So which did you just find the most attractive? So I'm just going to briefly share my screen somewhere and just highlight these categories for folks in the form. So if you guys can just go to this website, you will see each of the projects mentioned and each of the categories. If you don't know which one is your favorite in a category, just go to this last column and say tie, not sure, can't decide, or don't know. If you are an affordable housing developer, we're so glad you're here and you are welcome to vote, but we ask you not to vote for your own project so that we can keep a good sense. But I think the viewpoints you have about the projects of your colleagues and contemporaries in the affordable housing world will be really valuable. So we would love for you to vote as well. So how do you do that? Summer, do you want to share the screen and talk through the last couple slides?
So, something happened to the link. Sorry, 1 second.
Someone may have cut out the link. We're going to get that back in, and it's in the chat function here too. So feel free to vote. We've got until May 24th. So vote by then.
Yes, the link is here and the deadline is May 24th. And the results will be shared thereafter with developers and on social media.
And everyone here.
Yes. If you would like to engage with us more, CSV does have volunteer committees. We have the Community Engagement Committee that meets the third Thursday of every month from 7 to 8:30 p.m. And we have the Project Advocacy Committee that meets on the fourth Wednesday of every month from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. So if you're interested, there's a link if you want to learn more. And also, you can sign up for our newsletter and the link is right there as well. And also another way to stay connected is through our social media. We have Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. It's a great way to stay updated on any events or meetings or anything like that with us. So, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for being here. This was a wonderful, wonderful event. We're sorry for the tech hiccups at the beginning, but we really appreciate your sticking with us. And we're so glad that you participated tonight. I'll stay on the call for a couple minutes in case anyone wants to check in on anything around Catalyze SV or any of the developers want to say hello. But otherwise, we are done for the night. Thank you. Don't forget to vote by the 24th. And thank you all developers who presented your excellent projects tonight. Can't wait to do this again with you sometime soon. Take care, everyone. Great job.
Thank you, Alex. Bye. It was great.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Virginia. Thanks. Thanks, Gloria Ann. I'm here if anyone else needs anything. Thank you for joining us, David, Tavita, Marie.